Hello, welcome to the Soulprint Insights channel here on part 2 of the In-Depth series. I know it's not a very original name, but you know. So, thank you for the response to last week's video. It was lovely and very much appreciated. We spent a lot of time in that video using phrases like moving towards transition, and I just wanted to do sort of some clarity on what that meant and how that sort of fits into the grand scheme of things. So I'm actually going to ask Masudius to channel that because, as I said, it seems to come out with a little bit more fluidity if he does. So I want to talk about moving towards transition, and going into the light. And then we're going to move on to a couple of broader topics. I want to talk about the timing when you have a near-death experience, but you're not allowed to sort of cross over. And I also hope that we can touch on the whole guardian angels and those that have passed before us, that we know if they become guardians or how that works. So here we go. As always, the Masudius channeled information is copywritten under my private name. And here we go. Masudius, can you please give us some clarity on the timing and the phrases and the meaning of moving towards transition, and going into the light? So as always, it is really, really lovely to connect with the Soulprint Insights family, and we very much appreciate the opportunity to do so. So perhaps, I know this is not something we have ever done on this channel, but given the question asked, and we're going to include this, what you would call a shout out, at this time. So moving towards transition means, as and sometimes consciously, but sometimes unconsciously, as you are getting closer and closer to that point where the soul is ready to move on, it's ready to leave physical form. Transition is that period of time, generally, where the soul has left the body, and that period of time before it is in the light, before it sees the light and is able to move into it. And in the light is when you make that complete transition, and you are now in higher consciousness. You are now joined with the divine, however phraseology, whatever you want, however you want to picture it or say it, it comes down to the same energy. We're joining forces with all that is. The shout out comes this way. So there is a light worker on your planet named Cash Peters, who has been doing something that he defines as transition pictures. These pictures are an accurate physical reflection of a process that happens energetically. And he is commended for doing this work, as he not only shows intelligence, he is also selective, and he is offering a great deal of clarity for his work. And our kudos to him from this side of the veil to him. For those of you who are interested, his transition pictures bring some real clarity to that process. Having said that, let's start back at moving towards transition. So this is often that period of time where a soul, a body, a physical body, has the awareness or the understanding that their days are numbered, that they're getting ready to exit. You know, you will often hear people say things like, this is the last time I see you. Or I think today I'm I'm going to go, or, you know, it's time for me to move on. There's all kinds of expressions that people say. Almost sometimes it looks like not quite consciously. You would call it almost foreshadowing, um, where they're sort of sending out a message that they have an awareness that it's time for them to move forward. Sometimes this moving towards transition can happen and go on for a long period of time, as with somebody, for example, who is diagnosed with terminal something. So they might have a few weeks or a few months to really understand that this physical experience is sort of wrapping up. Now, the other time that moving into transition is used is when somebody is, for example, in hospice. Perhaps they are in a coma. Perhaps they are sort of only somewhat aware or responsive. The soul during that period is moving towards transition. However, there are times where the soul has actually started the transition process while still in kind of here and kind of there. So it's sort of like one foot, one foot in the grave and one foot not. Not that we make just. When that happens, and this has been depicted in these transition pictures that are being done, is where somebody arrives in that tunnel and they are they're not able to walk, or they feel trapped, or they're not quite all there. That can often be the experience of somebody who is sort of moving in and out of that sort of gateway to transition as the physical body is winding down. So when you move into transition, it is a period of time where you have the energy force of you, the divinity of you, has left physical being, and it is moving towards the light. That period of time in the middle is where a soul is able to release some of the burdens or weight, some of the ego-based issues that they carried with them in a lifetime, in physical form. Because when you enter the light, you enter it only as divine, pure light. And you carry nothing with you except love and your energy. That's what goes with you into the light. So there is that period of time where people are moving towards this process. You hear often of near-death experiences where people are saying things like, um, I wanted to move towards the light. I could see the light and I wanted to go there, but I was being told I couldn't. And we will discuss near-death experiences in a bit. So that period, and it is an interesting thing, it seems that very often those who are very well known, those who suffer trauma at the time of death, can have sort of longer periods of transition. Those who, in many cases, are ready to go, there's a sense of satisfaction or contentment with the life they had and lived. That movement through that tunnel can be very, very quick, because spirit energy, their higher form, their highest consciousness, is ready to leave the physical being, and it is ready to return to the light. So that tunnel is a time where the soul, the energy, is releasing not so much the body, but the physicality of the body, the reality of the body, that is where, those ego-driven emotions come in, or those people who don't want to let go of what they had in the physical life because they amassed so much, and in the tunnel they realize they're not taking any of it with them. So the tunnel process is a shedding. It is a letting go of. And, there are times when that process, as we said, there are those who sort of stand right at that doorway and sort of move in and out. There are those who enter and then they just sort of stop and they're trying to understand. There are those who enter and move quite speedily and quickly towards the light, and any variation in between is possible and happens. You have to understand and always remember that there are as many experiences as there are stars in the galaxy. Everybody does what they need to do. Everybody follows their soul print. Everybody follows that pathway one way or another as they move through their existence, always, always understanding that free will guides them and are the choices they're making to a higher consciousness or a lower consciousness of their free will. So that is that transition period. Once they have gone into the light, that soul is pure energy now. They have left what needs to be left behind, and they are ready to move forward to the experiences that the soul has in complete energy form. Near-death experiences are about that period of transition to one degree or another. You will talk about, people who saw themselves in the hospital, they went to visit their family, those are the experiences of near death. Now, the thing to remember is many of you through the course of your life have had near-death experience or periods where the exit time was available to you. And some of these are quite definitive and some are very vague. So, bad accidents, bad vehicle accidents. You hear people saying things like, I don't know how they survived. That whatever should have killed them. Or, I don't understand how they died. Like, it was just like they were here and then they were gone. And like, why would something so minor kind of take them out? Those are about exit times. So those who were taken out chose to leave. It was their time. They'd accomplished what they wanted to accomplish. Those who sort of came back from whatever the trauma was, decided or were told, but usually they decided, because free will is never completely removed from your process. They decided that there were things they still wanted to accomplish. There was something that they wanted to complete. Perhaps there was something really significant they needed to do, and this event would help propel them towards that reality. So the near-death experience, by and large, is really about being in that tunnel. And by the time you get to the light, you really have made peace with the fact that there is no physical form for you to return to. And that is why that movement into the light is often done with a great sense of release, relief, clarity, understanding, peace, joy, excitement. Because, as we said in last video, in that form, as you step into the light, you are now your most authentic self. You are pure energy. And that is who each and every one is in reality. Now, for those who are turned back or have had near-death experiences, there is that understanding, awareness that it's not the right time for them. It's not in their best interest. It's not in their highest good to move forward into the light. There is still much of their soul print within their soul that they really want to accomplish still in that physical form, in that circumstance and situation. Very often, near-death experiences will create, for those who remember them, will create sort of a moment or a period or a time of transition, not in the tunnel transition, but just transition or transformation within their lives about what they want to do, where they want to go, what is important to them, what is not important to them anymore. It is a moment of sort of clarity. But understand, almost everyone has near-death experiences or times of exit throughout the course of their life. That just doesn't mean, if you don't have a near-death experience, it doesn't mean that there hasn't been a situation where you have sort of gone into the light, you've been sent back, or you've gone into transition, you've sent back, and you just don't remember it. Maybe it feels like a dream. Maybe it was instantaneous, like in an accident. You guys will often, you people on earth will often get hung up about timing, the timing of things. But you must understand that time as you know it is not time as it is experienced anywhere else. So for you, what might happen in a moment, in reality, could be taking a much longer period of time as a soul grapples with dealing with being sent back to that life, as they come to terms with why this experience has happened. It may feel instantaneous, but that doesn't mean in reality it is instantaneous. And so very often things like accidents, things like almost accidents, workplace mishaps, all of these kinds of events, just simply a cold that gets, get really, really ill with like pneumonia and things are touch and go. All of those things are about possible exit times that have been pre-established. Now, do not think that every time somebody cuts you off and you just about had an accident, or every time you catch a cold, this is one of your exit times. But again, you in physical form, living your life in consciousness, does not need to know those details. Needing to know them could, in fact, impact your free will choices. So what happens now when a soul moves into the light and they are now in that light? And we know that this has been addressed in other videos. We want to particularly answer the question that was asked with regards to loved ones and angels and guardians. So as we said before, there are some who simply move into higher consciousness and they move on, they move forward. There are those who, for whatever reasons, will choose to stay not connected to the earth, but connected to the energies of love that they experienced on the earth. That is why very often you will find that people are able to connect with their loved ones, like a mother, a father, a grandparent, a favorite aunt or uncle who has passed. It is because one of two things. Either one, that energy has decided that it wants to sort of hang around and join the circle of energy beings that surround each and every one of you. So they take up place with your guardians and your higher being angels, etc., so that they can add their energy or their prayers or their blessings through that group that surrounds you towards you. Very often, those um, relatives or close friends who have passed will very often join the circle around you of your existing energy beings when you are in a time of difficulty or trauma. They will gather together to harness as much energy and to send that energy to you as a way to draw you towards healing in one way or the other, healing of one kind or the other. Oftentimes, your relatives who have gone into the light will simply move back into this energy vibration in order to communicate with you. Perhaps, you are looking for a specific message, or perhaps there's something they would really like to share with you or tell you. Very often, relatives will kind of congregate, if you will, when a soul is leaving this part of the energy, when they're leaving heaven, for lack of a better word, and they are returning to earth. So very often, there will be groupings of the soul group coming together when a child is born. Likewise, when a soul is leaving the earth and returning back into its most authentic form, there will also be groupings of spirits and souls there to welcome them back home. Soul groups are huge, and very often there are many, many spirits, souls, guardians, angels who you do not know in this physical being, in this physical life, in this reality, but who, when you move into the light, are there, and it is you simply know them. It wasn't from this life, maybe it was from another one, but whatever it is, that is when you actually get a kind of a real indicator of exactly how large a soul group can be. I mean, there is a soul group on the planet now that have all been homogenized into the word light worker. They all have a piece to play. Every one of you light workers has a piece to play. Does that mean every single one of you know every single other one? Not in physical form. And in fact, not even really in energy form. But there is a connection. There's an energy understanding. There is an energy connection. So there has been this understanding, this experience that when you die, you go to sleep or you're nothing. Everything just turns off and you don't even know it's turned off because you're dead, so you don't even have the awareness. This is not correct. Always remember, in its simplest form, that part of you that is higher consciousness, the highest consciousness, that part of you that comes from the divine, the one, the only source, whatever label, that is indestructible. It just is. And so it will change shape and form more times than you can even imagine. But it will not be minimized and it will not be destroyed. And, when we talk about death, We think it's important to remind you that no matter what your experiences are, always remember that the most vital, important, and life-sustaining part of you, that divine, makes you indestructible, and it prevents you from being minimized. Those are important aspects of any journey, of any physical journey, to remember. And may that awareness bring you the strength and the clarity that you need in this or any other moment as you move through this particular life experience. We hope that our answers have been clear, they have been helpful, and they have shed some light or understanding on the questions asked. We thank you, and we are grateful to pass on our knowledge to you. We humbly remain Masudius. Okay, so there we have that. I am just going to once again ask that for those of you who are seeing these videos and maybe have specific questions, please put them in the comment section. I'll go through them, and I will continue to incorporate them into this in-depth series that I am doing. It feels as if this is the right time, the appropriate time, for there to be perhaps just additional clarity or insight or understanding, because truly, in the physical form, in the here and now, each of us and all of us are experiencing more of it around us, and certainly have an awareness of the magnitude of it at this time. So if you have those questions, send them off to me in the comment section. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I'm just very thankful and very humbled. For now, don't forget, stand in your light.